Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitafi. Viewers, we have been discussing many issues regarding judiciary and the parliament, but one very important decision that was expected came today about the qualification or disqualification of a party leader. In the past, we have seen a succession of events. We know that Nawaz Sharif was disqualified. After that, there was an act that was passed by the Parliament of Pakistan, wherein the bar on any person who is disqualified from becoming a head of the party was removed. And then this issue was taken to the Honorable Court, where in the Supreme Court, where we saw that litigation kept on going for some time. Now, finally, we have seen the result, and we know that Nawaz Sharif or any person who has been disqualified cannot hold the party's leadership position. Not only that, it was perhaps when you talk about this decision, one could expect that kind of a thing happening because, there are Articles 62, 63. But the interesting part and a bit confusing or puzzling part is that we are anticipating the next Senate elections in less than a month, actually within 10-12 days. And in that, schedule had been released. We know that the date of nomination of the candidates has actually passed. And after that, what we thought was that the election are going to take place in time. But now, since every decision of Nawaz Sharif has been cancelled as the party chief, we now know that his decision or nomination of the Senate candidates is also nullified. What does it do? It actually ensures that PML-N right now doesn't have any candidate for the Senate. Had some clarification been added to today's decision, we would have thought that things have actually escaped confusion. That didn't happen. Now we are looking at the Election Commission of Pakistan to actually come up with an interpretation, with an explanation. We still don't know whether PML-N will be allowed to contest the coming Senate elections. If yes, then what exactly will be the modality? Because as I told you earlier, nomination dates have passed. So we are going to discuss both these issues. We are going to discuss umpteen other aspects of the case as well as we progress in the program. And the third thing, if you recall yesterday and day before yesterday, we also talked about the trichotomy of power. Even though one confusion has been clarified today, it was thought that perhaps the Honorable Court is going to knock down certain clauses of the Election Act 2017. That didn't happen. It only interpreted it that it will be read in context with Article 62 and 63. To discuss all these matters, we are joined by an eminent panel. We are joined by Dr. Jahanzeb Jamaldini, Senator, BNP. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Colonel Retired Tahir Mashadi, Senator, Muttahida Qawmi Movement, MQM. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. In Lahore, we are joined via video link by Dr. Shazra Mansab Ali Khan, MNA of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, the ruling party. Thank you, ma'am, for being part of the program. And later on, we'll be joined on phone by other leaders as well. The moment that happens, I'm going to introduce them as well. Dr. Jamaldini, I have to start with you, sir.
Thank you.
Your interpretation of today's events, do you think that it is going to create some precedents in coming days?
No doubt, no doubt. It's a big sort of decision from the court side, no? And there are many aspects of it. You can just evaluate it according to these aspects. Firstly, 203 was passed first by the parliament. So if it was not in accordance with the the constitutional articles which are over there in the constitution, or 62, 63, but again, it could be evaluated, it could be looked into this matter, that the parliament has once again has been it has been made undermined. Its decision has been, you may say, nullified.
Okay.
But the
Parliament's decision is nullified at this moment?
they have made it 203, but they have made the Prime Minister, he was the ex-Prime Minister, now the party leader. It does mean that he could not be the party leader, he could not even sign his, whatsoever he has done in between these days, those will be nullified first.
Yeah.
So it's again a conflict in between the judiciary and Parliament. It could be discussed in future in this way.
Right.
So,
okay, that is a given that the media of Pakistan is definitely going to create it or make it an issue of conflict between various institutions. But the clause 203 of the Election Act and the other one, that is 232, both will be read together with Article 62-63. That doesn't mean that they are going to nullify the act itself. Let me bring in Colonel Mashadi sahab. So your take on today's decision.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think more problems have been created than solved. There's a lot of things are going to emerge out of this judgment. One is the political aspect. Political aspect, it doesn't make much difference to Mr. Nawaz Sharif. He has been removed as party head. He can be the father of the party, he can be Rehman, they'll call him something, but definitely he'll gain popularity with this. Because we see, going by the previous judgments, any judgment that has come against him, he has gained in popularity, and that is going to continue. So he'll be more popular than he was ever before. He plays the victim very well, and he is going to benefit from this. The biggest problem is, as you mentioned, is that this controversy has been created between Parliament and judiciary, and it's a question of supremacy.
Okay.
Now, supremacy of Parliament, even the Honourable Chief Justice has said, Parliament is supreme. The word supreme itself speaks, it means that nothing can be above that. It means that is supreme. Now, you can't say it is supreme, but we can do this or that.
Okay.
It is the mother, it is the creator. It has created the constitution.
Right.
It is the only authority in Pakistan which can amend the constitution.
Right.
It is the only authority in Pakistan which can enact laws. Legislation is purely responsibility of Parliament. Now, what has happened is that the Parliament did legislation. Some legislation is good legislation, some legislation is bad legislation. Mostly bad legislation is corrected by the Parliament itself.
Right.
By amendments.
Later on, like 17th Amendment was amended by 18th Amendment.
And if anything new has to be put in, we have First Amendment, Second Amendment, 17th, 18th, 19th Amendments, and this is how it is supposed to be. And the court's responsibility is just the interpretation. Now, what has happened here is that in a way, they have thrown out an act passed by the Parliament of Pakistan.
Technically, sir, they haven't actually...
No, technically you can say anything.
We haven't seen the detailed judgment.
You see, we are not lawyers. I'm talking about the general public. I'm a political
The
animal.
optics of it, right?
I'm a political animal, not a lawyer. True. I don't know law. Yeah. But this is what I feel, and this is what a lot of people are going to feel. That the other thing is, it's a continuation of the Panama saga. Things are going on and on and on. And one party is being persecuted in this way. That they were prosecuted. They were even persecuted because there were 250 people in the Panama.
Yeah.
And only one person was targeted.
Yeah.
And the rest were forgotten. The rest enjoy the wealth and the rest enjoy. Then it came to character. The character of other political leaders.
Exactly, sir. And we are going to come back to this.
And that same individual was declared back. So that is going to have an effect on the overall political situation.
In terms of optics, of course, this is going to be the narrative of the people who have been prosecuted. And let me go to Lahore. Let me bring in Dr. Shazra Mansab Ali Khan. Dr. Zaba, thank you very much once again for joining us. Your take on today's verdict, ma'am.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think that the Supreme Court's verdict today, which has gone against a law passed by the Parliament, and the Parliament is the supreme body in Pakistan, and it makes laws. It has the rights to it has the right to make laws, it has the right to amend laws, it has the right to repeal laws, and this was a law that was passed by the Parliament, and the Parliament represents the will of the people of Pakistan. It represents the will of the public of Pakistan. So all institutions need to be able to operate within the limits set for them by the Constitution and by the law of Pakistan. Right. And when institutions impinge upon the domain of another institution, then that weakens and enfeebles the democratic process, which I think today's verdict has done. It has not
Dr.
had
Zaba,
any effect on the
just to
party
clarify 2 points before
or the party
we
leader
continue to discuss these matters. Let me just
for
clarify just 2
Nawaz
points.
Sharif Saab,
One, the law has not been cancelled. The act has not been cancelled by the Honorable Court. It has been clarified that it will be read along with Article 62, 63, which remains the part of the Constitution. The second aspect is also important. These two judges, who, at least the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan already has said that Parliament is supreme, but there is a caveat. There is a distinction between a legislative assembly and a constituent assembly. At this moment we are talking about legislative assembly, right? Dr. Saba, can you hear me?
By trying to link the two things, the section 203 of the Act with the 62, 63 article of the Constitution, I think that is not right. That should not be done. It undermines and enfeebles the political process and the democratic process that the party has already gone through. And with that, they have also
yeah, please go on. I think there is some technical issue. I cannot. Please, ma'am, go ahead. Can you hear me, ma'am?
So,
okay.
Yes, I can hear you now. What I was saying was that by connecting these two laws, it is almost like it is redolent of authoritarianism, I would say. It is, and I think
I have another question for you, ma'am, and that is about the Senate elections
of the Parliament.
Okay, I have another question for you about Senate elections. Given that Mian Nawaz Sharif's nomination or appointment as the chairman or the president of the party has been nullified, and his decisions as the party leader have been nullified also, have you taken, cognizance of how much loss there has been? And what becomes of the Senate elections in coming days?
Well, obviously the Election Commission is going to decide what's going to happen about the upcoming Senate election. I do not think that a whole province can be disenfranchised because Punjab has all the PML-N seats. And plus, already there have been horse trading, for example, in Balochistan. Already this process was being undermined. So now it's up to the Election Commission to see how it's going to go about it, whether there's going to be a rescheduling of the election, or if the participants are going to be able to go ahead with the election. But in any case, in either of the two decisions, I think that the political democratic process has been sapped and undermined. That goes without saying. Even if the participants can now go ahead and the Senate election goes on as per schedule, still they will not be able to contest election on the party ticket which has been given to them. It was a whole democratic process that the biggest party of Pakistan went through. So whatever happens now, there is as I said, an undermining of that process.
Okay, we are going to talk about trichotomy of power as we move forward,
which is going
and
to
we
have
are going to talk about
implications
the jurisdiction of various institutions as well. Let me come back to the studio. Dr. Saab, your take on this question about the Senate election. What becomes of them? Because at this moment we don't have any clear position.
Well,
and there's another question added to it. You know, Nawaz Sharif became the president of the party in October. Since then, there have been elections in various constituencies of MNAs and MPAs. What becomes of them now?
Well, I think it's going to be presumed over here that every sort of action or order which Mr. Nawaz Sharif as a president of Muslim League Noon has ordered that should be cancelled according to this decision.
Yeah.
But the problem is again of democracy, because it will totally produce a political turmoil throughout the country. First, if it is thematically, if you think in this way, you are going to just bar the Muslim League Noon from Senate election, then it could be a big sort of undemocratic action.
Right. Do you think that can happen?
I do think, I suspect it, because there should be a good sort of, every political party should have a proper sort of I mean, no, they should have a right to just exercise their democratic, I mean, the institutional, you may call it acts or institutional activities. But the problem over here arises because it will eventually affect the other political parties, the biggest political parties, which are probably now happy on the decision of the court, which today they have just ordered it.
Yeah,
but
eventually only one party, not other parties, because their chairs are not actually barred.
Because if you just finished it 203, because during the Ayoub's regime, it was over there. When the Democratic Party came over there, they removed it. Then during the Zia's regime, it was just introduced into the constitution, but again it was removed by the Benazir Bhutto. And then it was again put in by the martial law dictator Musharraf, and again it was removed today. So it will have a bad effects on the political party, the small political parties. If the establishment has got some sort of enmity with the small political parties, this Act 62-63 can be utilized any time against them.
Yeah, and but here's the, Dr. Saab, here's the question now. We have been talking about Article 62-63 for quite some time. The problem is when it comes to lawmaking, you are lawmakers, you have all the powers, the parliament has all the powers to amend law, and we saw that this parliament or the previous parliament actually nullified most of Pervez Musharraf's amendments. That was saying something, right? Under Amendment, 18th Amendment. Now, Article 62-63 still remain in the Constitution.
Yeah, that was a big sort of, very bad, you are perfectly right. It's what pity that this government of Nawaz Sharif, they should have come up with this sort of initiative that we are going to just abolish 62-63 from the Constitution. Although it was discussed in the 18th Amendment that 62-63 is a redundant sort of article which has been put by a martial law administrator, it should be removed. But they refused on that time. Today it has been utilized against them. Although they may be just repenting today that we have not done a proper sort of job for our Constitution. But eventually again, there could be a lot of other articles in the Constitution. If you have got a clear mind, democratic mind, or a patriotic sort of mind, you will not be going to utilize any article against the democratic system.
Right.
If you've got some sort of, you may have a biased sort of or envious sort of mentality, then you can just utilize it against the democratic forces and the political parties. Now, at this time, only Mian Nawaz Sharif and his party is the main target. But eventually, it could be used against my party also, it could be used against the other political parties.
That is the consequences of this year.
That is what I want, that the democratic institutions should be strong first, and secondly, the sanctity, the authority and the trichotomy of the power, that should remain as such.
Right. But Parliament actually was supposed to define what are the limits of which department, but that didn't happen. And that's why we have repeated clashes and we have confusion as well. But Colonel Sahab, earlier you said, and that is something very interesting, you said that Parliament is A, supreme, B, it can make constitution. This Parliament actually cannot, because it is not a constituent assembly. So is it possible that, you know, when you talk about the Parliament itself, Parliament is superior to many other things, but there is one thing which is superior to the Parliament, that is the Constitution, which can be amended but cannot be changed by the Parliament itself. Totally, you know, scrapped. It cannot be scrapped.
How can a creation be stronger than the creator?
Yeah, but
the Parliament creates the Constitution.
Okay.
Only the Parliament can amend it. Only the Parliament can enhance it or make it smaller. An act of Parliament is, of course, again, because the Parliament has enacted that act. But when you read it with the Constitution, what is happening is that we are only reading it with 62, 63.
Right.
We are not considering 17, which is very, very specific in the protection of the basic human right, the fundamental right of man, a right of assembly, right of joining where you want, whatever you want to do, right of speech, everything is there. And in the first 22 articles of the Constitution are all dealing with the rights of individuals. And if you read them with that, 62, 63, what has happened is that we have gone into the realm where it doesn't exist anywhere in any democratic state in the world. You cannot legislate for morality.
Okay.
The morality, it has to be an inherent thing. You have to have your own morality according to your culture, according to your traditions, according to your upbringings, according to your religion, and different societies, different roles. Here, 62, 63 is an infringement on this.
Basic rights
I
of the
may
people.
not be a mosque-going person, and anybody can say that he is immoral.
Right.
So who is there to judge? And I may be the greatest and the most loving or most practicing in private, but it's not seen.
So, sir, actually you're referring to only one clause of
the
Article 62, 63, that is about Sadiq and Amin, right?
Sadiq and Amin, and you see this had effect here also. It had effect before. I mean, a prayer was not asked for. Prayer was not asked for in the Panama case. And the Akama suddenly turned up. And then everything went on morality and all that sort of thing. So this is going to cause trouble. So who is going to define that morality? Who is going to define that you're a moral person
and here's a question for you, sir.
Are we going to go to court for every single act that we perform in our public life?
And this question was asked by the Prime Minister of Pakistan as well. But here's another question for you. You're lawmakers, sir. You had all the powers to amend Article 62, 63. Why didn't you do it?
Actually, this 18th Amendment was a great missed opportunity. There's no doubt about it. Some of the parties, especially the smaller parties and the Balochistan parties and the more democratic or liberal parties, they wanted to remove it. Unfortunately, Pakistan Muslim League didn't. And this was
and I'm going to ask PML-N as well.
Used against them, and this is
they were reluctant
tragedy
about it
because it has to be removed. It's not in spirit with the rest of the constitution that we have. We have a wonderful constitution.
And you're talking about Sadiq and Amin. Let me
Sadiq-
just qualify this, because there are
Everybody-
other parts of it where people might be of less financial integrity or corrupt practices or proscribed organizations.
That is,
they cannot qualify.
See, if one man is been taken to task for corruption, 2,000 people are enjoying life in Monte Carlo and in Dubai and everybody, and we know it.
Yeah.
They're roaming around with 7 Pajeros. They've got houses in Multan, Murray, and everybody says, oh, they're big guys and they're very good. So where is that 62 and 63?
Right,
What
and
is the
that
value
is a
of it?
question, sir. Let me go again to Dr. Shazra Mansab Ali. Ma'am, the question at this moment is, if the PML-N now has an issue with the Article 62, 63, it has been in power for 4.5 years, and even before that there was a tiny bit of time, a little bit of time, when you were in power, you were sharing power with People's Party at the very start of their government, and at that time you also came up with the 18th Amendment. Why didn't you change the Article 62 and 63? Please go ahead.
My take on that, for now, talking about Article 62 and 63, I agree with Senator Saab and all that he has said, that to interpret Article 62 and 63 or to interpret the words Sadiq and Amin, that process has not been gone through as yet. But going back to the original verdict of the SC, of the disqualification of the Prime Minister, that was not done on the Panama case in any case. That was not the Panama, the verdict that came was not on the Panama, that was on Ikama, which is a completely different thing. So first of all, we have to go back and see that verdict, out of which stems this verdict, the current verdict that was given today. So that verdict itself was a weak verdict, and not only PML-N but also other parties have now agreed. As you saw, the chairperson of PTI recently said that that was a weak verdict given by the SC, plus even the language used by the Supreme Court, as the Prime Minister said also on the floor of the Assembly, was not acceptable. And then this verdict of today also stems out of that weak verdict. It negates a law passed by the supreme and sovereign body of Pakistan, which is the Parliament, and by negating that, it weakens the democratic process.
Okay, here's the question. This second time you have said that it actually nullifies or challenges or cancels the law that was passed, the act that was passed. Is it really so? Because what I see, the said law is in front of me at this moment, and the verdict is also in front of me. It doesn't actually cancel it out. My original question remains, when you had power, why didn't you change Article 62, 63 in accordance with the wishes of the people? Because at this moment it seems that misdeclaration, that was the issue of Ikama, also was implemented on the basis of 62 and 63. You could have changed it.
Yes, I agree with that. These articles should have been removed. They're like a sword of Damocles hanging over the parliamentarians always, and they're open to interpretation by anyone and everyone, as it seems. So a law that was passed by the majority of parliamentarians has now been challenged, let's say, by a body of 3 people.
Okay. Right. Let me come back to the studio, and let me go back to Dr. Jamaldini. Sir, what do you think is going to happen now in Senate election case? Do you think that the Election Commission is going to cancel the previous schedule and come up with a new one?
I do think, for the sake of democracy and for the integration of total system, the best way will be that the Pakistan Muslim League candidate should be given proper sort of time, because there's a lot of time still, and a new head of the party they should cite the documents of the senators who have applied for it. And because if you don't let them enjoy the democratic norms or the values, then it will be a big sort of controversial system. Because if we are, if it is in our mind that we are going to just totally throw them out from the elections of the Senate, or in forthcoming election, there could be another sort of problem in general elections. So what I say, the best way, the election commission, even the court should go, it should become more lenient about it. They should provide them ample time to practice the democratic norm, so their candidates should fight the Senate election first. And secondly, it is basic.
How much time will be enough?
I think 1 week or 10 days enough for it.
1 week or 10 days.
10 days
we
enough.
still have something lesser than a fortnight.
I do think we have got still a lot of time. Only it could be amended in this shape. The election commission can give them 4 or 5 days to complete their elections, and then a new president should sign their documents, so it will be cleared up.
Yeah, but here's the confusing part. PML-N knew that this case is being heard, and yet they actually nominated people with the signature of Nawaz Sharif.
No, because every person knows the parliament has amended something. If parliament amends something, the best way is it should have been sent back to the parliament, that such sort of I mean the article or the clause, it is defective, you should just reconsider it. But now the decision has come from the court.
Just let me clarify this bit, that the law has not been cancelled. Let me quote the verdict itself. And I'm talking about para 7. Therefore, for detailed reasons to be recorded later, these constitutional petitions are allowed. It is held and declared that the provisions of section 203 and 232 of Election Act 2017 are liable to be read, construed and interpreted subject to the provisions of Article 62, 63 and 63A of the Constitution. That means it has only clarified, the Honorable Court has only elaborated what it means. It hasn't actually changed the law.
But it will again produce a lot of problem for the political parties even. The best way will be still, the court should have also narrated, I'm not going to just guide the courts, it's their own, they've got the authority to just clarify something, or to just, cancel something, or just make some sort of provision in that. The best way will be still over there, the democratic institution should be saved, as Chief Justice has openly in his narrative, he has said that I'm going to safeguard the democracy and democratic process, I'm in favor of it, I'm not going to make any sort of problem for the democracy. If he is totally in favor of the democracy, then it's the proper time that the PML-N people should be given proper time for the Senate elections.
And the ball right now is in ECP's court. Right, and that is important. But here's another concern, sir. Colonel Saab, the question is for you. Today, Sheikh Rashid Ahmad Khan actually comes on air, and he actually claims that since everything has been, declared unfit, this nomination, this qualification, because of that, the Prime Minister's nomination has also been nullified, which was wrong. Because, the Prime Minister took oath of office at the start of August last year. And Nawaz Sharif would return to his party's presidency in October. There are hitmen who actually keep on creating confusion about things. But the problem right now is that we are, whether we realize it or not, we are facing a constitutional crisis where we don't know what becomes of the Senate election till the time ECP actually doesn't give a judgment, and then later on, in either case, that decision can also be challenged in a court of law. Have you seen anything of this sort in the past, sir?
No, we haven't seen anything like this, and we are not likely to see it either. Nowhere, that as far as I can, and I've read Cole also, nowhere is mentioned even in the Bible of the parliaments, which is Cole. The trouble is that in the judgment, they have also said that all acts committed by him are null and void. Now that is again very surprising. Usually past and closed transactions.
Yeah.
Clause comes into everything. Even in our judgments, Supreme Court judgments, High Court judgments in the past, they've always come so that not to create this confusion and giving a chance to Sheikh Rashid Saab and the likes of him to come out with the fantastic interpretations that everything in Pakistan is null and void, because he was the Prime Minister and
he's actually, Sheikh Rashid is actually picking a fight with the Prime Minister also.
Oh,
that's why he thought that it is also
this chance has been given because of this, that you can read it like this. But the Senate elections are definitely affected. You cannot defranchise any party. This is one of the big parties of Pakistan. But you cannot defranchise even a party with one member.
Right.
The Constitution of Pakistan gives that protection. Nobody can be defranchised like this. It is our basic, fundamental human right as enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan and all the laws of Pakistan. Now, at the moment, the Pakistan Muslim League candidates stand defranchised. The poor chaps, they have been nominated and they are not nominated because of the Supreme Court judgment. How they go about it, maybe, we never know. Maybe the ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif says, no, I refuse to have a new president. I am the president. Maybe, although he's not likely to go into that type of confrontation. But option is open, he can do. Or they say, give us time for elections. Now, if you give time for elections, they miss the boat because the schedule is out. Now, the Election Commission of Pakistan, is it strong enough? No. In the past, we've seen that the Election Commission of Pakistan has been wavering. It has not put its foot down in anything. And it has not given any decision as such. And this is going to be a very big decision.
And it so happened today that Justice Wajee went to the Election Commission and there was a fight. He picked a fight with the Chief Election Commissioner.
And everybody will. Everybody will. There's actually a lot at stake. The Senate of Pakistan, the control of the Senate of Pakistan is at stake. Now, if Pakistan Muslim League, don't hold any brief for them. I'm one of their biggest opponents. But when it comes to justice or we are talking about the fairness of the matter, how can you take away an upper house from somebody?
Right.
If you take away that upper house, the conspiracy theories which have been going on,
they keep on thriving.
They will thrive. Because they'll say that this was done and this was done. And this was all
I have to, let me bring in People's Party's perspective as well. Rehman Malik, the former Interior Minister, leader of Pakistan People's Party, has joined us on telephone. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Rehman Malik, sir, your take on today's verdict, sir?
Well, I should say that it is unfortunate and I see totally constitutional crisis, especially when the Senate election had already been announced and the scrutinization of the candidate was there. So obviously what people are worried, what workers like me are worried as to what is going to happen to the Senate election. But having said so, as I have read the judgment, it's very clear that all the action taken by Nawaz Sharif as president of PML-N will be declared null and void, have been declared null and void. Now the question rises, will Election Commission go back and refer to the Supreme Court to get the clarity on it? But reading the judgment, it's very clear that all actions which he had taken as the president of PML-N stand null and void. So that is issue and that is going to be a problem. And I think I would like to advise Nawaz Sharif that don't confront, accept the judgment, because that's what the Constitution says, and that's what we did when our Prime Minister was actually, taken off from the seat. So I think that would be the wise, course of action. He still has the opportunity to appoint a new president of Muslim League. Still, he will have a hold. But let's finish this kind of situation where it is looking like that we are confronting and creating much more heat within the institutions.
Right. Sir, you were talking about Senate elections. That we can understand because the elections are still approaching. They haven't been here. We haven't taken part in them. But there have been other elections, the by-elections, where we have seen people got elected. And they were, of course, nominated by their party's president, like Lodhra election.
Yes,
there are
I
umpteen
understand
other
what you're
elections as
saying.
well. What becomes of them, sir?
No, I have to see it. If the party ticket has been awarded by the Secretary General, I don't think there's going to be any problem. But he has signed himself. Obviously, the question will be raised on it. And even somebody was telling me the nomination of the Prime Minister as a president because
That
he
is
had to
incorrect, sir.
choose. So if
Sir,
it is within
Prime
that
Minister
span
of
of time,
Pakistan was actually elected before Nawaz Sharif
that's what
became the
I'm saying.
president
Then
of the party.
there's no worry. But I think the Lodhra election might get affected. It all depends. But I think in all fairness, I feel that election commission should go back to the Supreme Court, giving the whole situation, both for the Senate election and, of course, Lodhra election. I think they should seek a new mandate or new judgment on it. And it is possible because many a time I have experienced in my parliamentary system, that such situation has risen. But if you refer back to the Supreme Court, I think they can resolve it and the clarity can come. And obviously, the nation is now thinking in
Right.
crisis.
Right. Rehman Malik sir, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
your
sir. God
time.
bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me now go to Lahore, once again to Dr. Shazra Mansab Ali, and let me take her perspective on the nomination process. Ma'am, the biggest question at this moment is not only of the Senate election, but it is also of the elections that have taken place already. And the question is, your party could see that this case is being heard in the Honorable Court. Why is it that the party didn't ask the Secretary General to sign on these nomination papers? Instead, it went for the President's signature.
As I said earlier, the Parliament is the supreme and sovereign body, and any laws or amendments in laws passed by the Parliament should not have to be validated or confirmed by any other institution. All other institutions are required to follow the Constitution and to follow the laws. And in light of that, and in light of the timing of the verdict that has come, the timing seems to put the verdict in murky waters. And as you repeatedly said, the law has not been cancelled. I understand that, but as it said, perception is reality. What is the perception taken by the government, by the public of Pakistan? That perception puts the Parliament, which is the supreme and sovereign body and which should be the supreme and sovereign body, under question. And the laws that have been passed by that are now going to be validated by the Supreme Court. So these questions arise in the mind of the public, as I've said before.
Right,
What happens to the Lodhra election, or what happens to the Senate election, or of course up to the Election Commission to decide. And of course, PML-N as a party will also look at the verdict and come to its own conclusion. But under no circumstances, I think, should the election and the general election be sabotaged in any way. These should happen on time, and the political and the democratic process should go on.
Right. Dr. Zaba, on that, I have to thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Let me try to conclude the program and come back to the studio, the guest I have in the studio. So your conclusion, sir?
Well, basically, it's okay, the decision has come right now, and there are ample time still for the Senate elections.
Let us hope that the Election Commission bails us out.
If Senate elections, if this decision would have come after the Senate election, what could have been the outcome of it? But what I say, basically, the democracy basically relies on this people's mandate. Their democratic rights should be honored anytime. First, second, trichotomy of power doesn't mean every institution should remain in their own domain and they should practice their own institutional work whatsoever is it. But the constitution which has been built, which has been envisaged by the parliament basically. Now, how can you say constitution is supreme, no doubt, but the mother organization is again the parliament. It has made it. So how you can just separate the constitution from the parliament. So parliament is supreme always, and nobody could think of it that the parliament, any article from the parliament could be raised out or it would be cleared up.
So, sir, your conclusion, sir?
Absolutely, he's right. Honor, dignity, and prestige of the parliament is supreme. There is just no doubt about that. Anywhere in the world, any court of law, any constitution will, or any political usage, custom, tradition will bear that in mind.
Right.
What we need is that everyone to stay within the parameters as enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan. And this adventurism of trying to go into other people's domain, we should try to our best to
but
keep away
this
from
is-
it. And we have to move forward. And to move forward, you must make sure that justice is done to Pakistan Muslim League, and they are allowed to contest the election just like
the
any
Senate
other
election.
party. Whether they win or lose, that is up to them.
Right.
But they must be given ample opportunity to elect their president, then ample opportunity to have their candidates.
Okay.
You can't just use the law to defranchise any
Right, sir.
political party.
I'm just told that we have to conclude the program. Colonel Mashadi, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Dr. Jamaldini, thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Dr. Shazra Mansab Ali joined us from Lahore. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time as well. And I must once again thank Rehman Malik Saab, who joined us on telephone earlier in the program. Thank you to all of you. And let me just say one thing here, viewers, and that is important. At this moment, we have to look at the Senate elections and we have to look at the result of the elections that have already taken place. Let us hope that the country doesn't have to face any constitutional crisis, because that answer that needed to actually resolve the issue regarding Senate election and the by-elections that have taken place hasn't been given. Let us hope that tonight or tomorrow the Election Commission of Pakistan comes up with an answer that is acceptable to everyone, and then we can move beyond this constitutional and political impasse. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.